This deal has a major innate benefits and it will have big ancillary benefits. And President Obama is right to structure it as a counterbalance to the delusions and the recklessness that have driven U.S. foreign policy, particularly with regard to the invasion of Iraq. And there's nothing radical about this deal. This is not radical. This is mainstream, smart, obvious diplomacy, and if it works, a major accomplishment. And there's one person that's not supporting this major accomplishment, and there's one person that's put crass and easy politics over what really is a very smart and very sensible deal, and that person is Senator Chuck Schumer. So it came out last Thursday that Schumer is going to vote against the agreement. And he released a piece in Medium where he explained, why he opposed this deal. And there were a lot of problems there. First of all, we'll talk about some of the specifics, but the trouble is that it's a disingenuous argument. I don't think there was any time that you were going to get Chuck Schumer to yes on this deal. Because the reality is that Iran has agreed to unprecedented inspections regimes. It's agreed to internationalize and open up its nuclear program in a way that is pretty unprecedented, both to the P5+1, the IAEA, and bear in mind again and again, this is all in the context of ambiguity about what the nature of Iran's program was to begin with. There has never been any definitive proof from any intelligence source ever that Iran wants a weapons program. So here's what Chuck Schumer has said. He claimed in his column that he was very concerned that, quote, the inspections are not anywhere, anytime. The 24-day delay before we can inspect is troubling. And I'm just going to read briefly from a piece in Foreign Policy by Jeffrey Lewis. Jeffrey Lewis responds, this would be very troubling if it were true. It isn't. The claim that inspections occur with a 24-hour delay is the equivalent of Obamacare's death panels. Remember those? A minor detail has been twisted into a bizarre caricature and repeated over and over until it becomes true. Let's get this straight. And I'm going to keep quoting here because this is very important. Let's get this straight. The agreement calls for continuous monitoring of all of Iran's declared sites. That means all the time, including centrifuge workshops, which are not safeguarded anywhere else in the world. Inspectors have immediate access to these sites. Centrifuge workshops, which are not monitored anywhere else in the globe. That leaves the problem of undeclared sites. What happens when the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, suspects that prohibitive work is happening in an undeclared site? This is the problem known as, quote, Ayatollah's toilet, which I would like it to be known as something different. That's me, Michael Brooks, butting in here. It emerged from the challenge of inspecting presidential palaces in Iraq in the 1990s, which, despite UNSCOM's demand for immediate access, the Iraqis argued were off limits. Far from giving Iran 24 days, the IAEA will only need to give 24 hours notice before showing up at a suspicious site to take samples. Access could even be requested with as little as 2 hours notice, something that will be much more feasible now that Iran has agreed to let inspectors stay in the country in the long term. So just wrap your head around all of that. And then bear in mind that Chuck Schumer, who wanting to not completely throw President Obama under the bus because he wants to lead Senate Democrats, acknowledged that President Obama and Secretary Kerry had worked hard to negotiate a good deal, acknowledged that President Obama had imposed incredibly tough sanctions on Iran when he first got into office. He goes and he repeats this ludicrous claim that there's a 24-day delay on inspections, when the Iranians themselves have agreed to have international inspectors literally stay as guests in the country to survey all of their sites ongoingly. Now, people have argued that the snapback provisions are not tough enough. And now that the system has been internationalized, the Europeans, the Russians, the Chinese might not go along with snapping them back into place if Iran's not upholding the agreement. Well, first of all, guess what else is not going to happen with sanctions from our European allies and Russian and Chinese negotiating partners. If we jettison and destroy these talks, do you think that they're going to go along with us for tough, unprecedented sanctions when Iran has compromised and the U.S. Congress is, as President Obama astutely noted, making common cause with hardliners in Iran to undermine this process? Do you really think that our partners are going to continue sacrificing billions of dollars just to please right-wing fanatics who will never take yes for an answer? I have no problem with any number of people objecting to the Iranian government, to the Islamic Republic, for any number of reasons. I object to many myself. But war in Iran would be an absolute disaster. The mechanics of this deal are fantastic, and every objective observer has been, frankly, astounded at how much Iran has agreed to. And whether it's Chuck Schumer or the usual lunatics on the Republican side jeopardizing this bill and even jeopardizing this deal and even putting in the possibility of war with Iran is fundamentally irresponsible, it's fundamentally wrong, and no one like this should be leading the Senate Democratic caucus.